If you want to ride the Big Bend BDR-X, there are 5 things that you need to know about before you go. That is weather, water, food, shelter, and fuel. So let's talk about each of those before you go. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. I am on section 1 of the Big Bend BDR-X, about halfway through near Terlingua Ranch, and I had reserved one of the cabins out here. I don't know if it's necessarily a cabin. There's these shipping containers that have been converted into little sleeping arrangements, which I was very happy to have because of the wind last night. It was incredibly windy. So that was nice to be able to get out of the wind and not set my tent up in the wind and trying to anchor it or having it fill full of dust. But this is the last couple of days of February. Tomorrow is March 1st. And I chose to come out at this point in time because last year I came at the end of March and the weather was incredibly different. So that's what I'm gonna talk about first, is the weather. I think there are essentially 2 windows to visit Big Bend BDR-X. There is the fall window, falling probably mid-October to about mid-December, where the weather should be pretty good. I have not been out here, so I can't speak for sure, but this is my 3rd time coming in the spring. This is the earliest I have been, and last year I came out at the end of March. And then the previous time I came out right about the middle of March, right when everything was shutting down based on COVID back in, was that 2020? So the temperatures here can vary greatly. So keep that in mind. If you're gonna be camping in this window of time, then bring everything for cold weather as well as it potentially being hot. So I checked the weather forecast and it was supposed to be lows in the mid 40s, not low 30s like it was last night. My timing traveling down here is awful. Last year I was down here at the end of March and it was over 100 degrees in the park. And so I thought I would come a couple weeks early. So I'm 4 weeks earlier than I was last year. And it was 30, it's currently 33 degrees. So again, it's either super hot when I am moto camping or it's incredibly cold. So it's cold this time. What am I doing? And then the highs are supposed to be in the mid 70s, and yesterday it was low 60s. So forecasting seems to be difficult down here, knowing exactly what it is. But that spring window is probably about mid-February to early April. And if you're gonna camp in the park, there's no shade. So it can be quite challenging, which gets me on to point 2, which is shelter. Shelter is really, can be a challenge depending on what you're trying to do. Now I know there's a lot of campgrounds. I talked to quite a few motorcyclists yesterday that were staying at campgrounds outside of the park. Me, I like to stay in the park if that's possible. Now I have made the mistake coming down here during holidays, and it can be incredibly hard to get a backcountry campground. Now there are RV compatible or RV acceptable campgrounds. You can make reservations for those ahead of time, but me personally on the bike, I don't want to stay there. The only way to get a campground in the backcountry camping sites is to go to Panther Junction Visitor Center. On the day you get there, they're non-reservable ahead of time, and then you can make your reservation right there. When I came over, unfortunately it was Easter last year, there was only a handful of campgrounds left, so I didn't have a lot of choice. But non-holiday weekends shouldn't be too bad. We'll find out today. If you're looking for a place to camp in the park, I highly recommend Terlingua Bajo. It is 10 miles short of the end of section 2. I don't know, I'm like 8 miles, 2 miles outside of the entry into the park. And there are 3 sites here. They have converted this into a group site. So if you're coming with multiple people, you can take over. I paid $10 and I have this whole area here to myself, and nobody else came in, and they can't stay here because it is a group site, but they do allow single people to stay here. So if you are looking to camp in the park, I really recommend this spot. Although I don't think you can go wrong in any of the spots if you like desert camping. If you don't like desert camping, then I don't know what to tell you. This probably isn't the right place for you. Now, the other critical thing is water. If you're going to be camping out here, you need to carry plenty of water. At Panther Junction, you can get water. There are visitor centers and different locations within the park that you can get water, but once you get out to a campsite, it's going to be completely dry. You're not going to have anything available to you. So I definitely recommend carrying probably enough water for 2 days, just in case something goes really, really wrong. The other thing is food. There's not a lot of food options in the park itself. Terra Ranch has a restaurant, haven't seen it yet. Study Butte, Terra outside of the park, there is a convenience store, gas station, and a couple of restaurants, so you can get food there. But as far as once you get into the park, you kind of need to take what you can, because there's not a lot of food options. There is one restaurant in Sky Island, or one of the Sky Islands, but depending on how busy it is, they regulate the number of people that are allowed to go up and down there. So when I was here last year, it was about an hour wait at the bottom of the road in order to ride up to the restaurant, so that wasn't really an option. So carry all the food that you're going to need. Don't plan on trying to find places to eat unless you're going to go in and out of Study Butte, Terra. If you're in the park, you need to have your food. The other thing you really need to keep in mind is fuel. There are a few places in the park to get fuel. It is going to be incredibly expensive. I will probably end up having to do that just to make sure I have enough, just top off the tank. The park, if you get fuel in Study Butte or Terra, you should be okay. If you're coming from the north and you don't get fuel, you're going to have a problem. If you're riding a bike with a smaller tank, you may want to carry some extra fuel with you just in case, depending on how much of the dirt tracks that you're planning to ride. So I would definitely plan ahead for riding, know what your range is, and make sure that you have plenty of fuel before you head into the park. I want to add one thing for shelter. There's also, if you look at Airbnb outside of Study Butte, Terra, there are all of these, there's a bunch of these shipping containers and sheds or whatever that have been converted into sleeping quarters. It's kind of expensive. It is about $75 last night to be able to stay in one of these, but because of the wind and the dust and the dirt, it was worth it to me. It has no heat. It may or may not be insulated. I really can't tell. I know it was incredibly cold inside there last night as it is outside. But hotels, if you get a hotel in Terra, it's, when I was looking, is $120. So it's about a $45, $50 savings staying in one of these. Or if you stay in Alpine, which is 80 miles away, there's hotels there, or in Marfa, but that is a long haul in order to ride around the park here. So those are really the 5 things that I think you need to keep in mind is check the weather, know what you're getting into, know the windows that are good. Water situation, make sure you carry enough water. And then we've got the fuel situation, make sure you have enough fuel, maybe carry some extra if you have a smaller tank or if your bike is inefficient, 10 or 700. And then food, carry plenty of food. And then the last thing is just keep in mind, if you're planning to camp in the park, you cannot get a campground until you get there, and then go straight to the visitor center at Panther Junction so that you can reserve a campsite that you are interested in. Now, there are some really awesome campsites. Again, no shelter, no shade. So you are desert camping. If it's windy, it's going to be a problem. But if it's not windy, it's pretty remarkable camping. And the stars, you will never see better stars than what you have out here. If you are planning to ride the Big Bend BDR-X, these are just some tips from my own experience coming down here. I'm not nearly as experienced as many others. There are some tour groups that you can take if you want to be fully supported as an option. I think it's perfectly acceptable to come out here and do it yourself. And I think there's enough people running around this park that you might be riding alone, but you will see people at least on motorcycles. So yeah, if you have ridden Big Bend BDR-X or Big Bend National Park or even Big Bend Ranch State Park, and you have your own tips, leave those in the comments below for anyone else who might be down here. There is a fair amount of off-road riding available at varying levels of experience and challenges. So it's kind of up to you on what you want to do. But if you're going to come down here, these are the 5 things that you really need to know before you do it. So anyway, remember, you cannot make more time, but you can always make more money. So get out and do that ride that you've been thinking about. Thanks for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.